You're listening to Australia's #1 tech podcast. Every week, join hosts Brad and Jason here on the Tech Webcast. Download our iPhone app, follow us on Twitter at Tech Webcast, and visit us online at techwebcast.info. Here are your hosts, Brad and Jason.
Welcome to episode 176 of the Tech Webcast podcast, recorded on Saturday, the 25th of February, 2012. Tech Webcast is recorded every Saturday and rebroadcast on Aussie Tech Heads on Thursday nights at 7. Today's hosts are Jason, Brad, and Steve. Good afternoon, Brad.
Hey, Jason. How are you, mate? Welcome back from your break.
Damn good. Welcome back from your break, too.
Thanks, mate. I wasn't a break. Well, I was still here.
Welcome back from a non-break, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, it's no fair. I didn't get a break, so.
No, C never has breaks.
Only the CEOs get breaks.
Exactly right.
Staff don't get breaks.
Exactly right. So, what's been happening, Jason, the last time we spoke?
What's been happening? Well, I got this here. I'll show on video. I just bought this today. It's called Xbox 360, the orange box.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Okay.
Could have played this a long time ago, like 6 years or whenever it came out, but
Right.
it was $23 when I went to EB Games today, so I thought, yeah, give it a go.
Nice.
You know, Half-Life 2, Portal, Team Fortress 2, try it out for once.
Cool. Good
$3
stuff.
if I don't like it, who cares?
Definitely.
I like Portal because I got that free with my Steam account on the Mac, because when they launched Steam on the Mac, they gave away Portal free for one weekend. So
Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
remember that. Yeah.
And I quite like that, but I prefer my games to be kept on the Xbox and the rest of my stuff to be done on the PC or Mac, so keep them separate. And this weekend, I'm going to be pretty busy the next couple of days. You know how we interviewed Carlos Icazar from Anska Mobile?
Yep.
The Corona programming system that does multi-platform applications in Lua. Well, tonight, starting at 12 midnight Friday PST, which is 7 p.m. Australian time, there's a 48-hour programming challenge.
Oh, cool.
And I've got 48 hours to complete a game from scratch.
Good stuff.
So tonight at 7 o'clock, I'll find out what the theme is. Last year, the theme had to do with the moon, a princess, monkeys, and that sort of thing. So they give you four themes, and you have to pick at least two of them. And from what I remember, the winning entry... Oh, and a hot air balloon. And the winning entry was a princess in a hot air balloon going around healing sick monkeys.
Oh, okay.
If they died or something. And so, so I took Monday off work.
Cool.
And I'm going to be spending from 7 o'clock tonight, 48 hours with a bit of sleep in between, just programming my heart out until I can get a game by 7 p.m. Monday night. So that's at techority.com.
Good luck for that, Jason. Good luck. And the prize, what are the prize again? Sorry, what was the prize?
Oh, they got a bunch of prizes. It's mostly to do with Corona. There's the Corona Program Manager application. There's some free graphics. There's the level editors, SVG level editor, Lime level helper, Sprite helper. Expressive is a application you can get which does special effects in games with particle effects and things like that. So all of that's going to be thrown in, and some iTunes cards. So well worth giving it a go. Unfortunately, I've already got half of the prizes that are the grand prize anyway. But who knows? I probably wouldn't win it anyway, but I might get second or third prize.
Yeah, you never know. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, a bit of fun.
Better than nothing. Any other news you want to report on before we get into the main news and have a chat with Steve? And
nothing major at this stage. How about yourself? You were saying TiVo's got something new on their website?
Yeah, apparently on Wednesday the 29th, they're doing some server maintenance or something.
Hopefully we'll get some new content. That'd be nice.
Don't think so. Yeah, so...
Netflix.
Oh, my God, Jeff's calling me. Jeff from WeaKnees. Holy shit.
He's come in.
News flash.
Jeff.
Flip that out.
Jeff, you're running late, mate.
No, you're running early, an hour and a half.
Holy moly. Dude, I keep getting the times mixed up, mate. Sorry. Yeah, Steve, we need to keep on track with the times. Jeff, how are you, mate?
I'm well. I'm so sorry. I just happened to check my email and saw your email that you were waiting. and I was planning on calling you in 95 minutes.
No,
so
that's fine. That's fine. Dude,
Right, we're
I'm
already
stoked.
on air, so
We're
do
stoked.
you want to get into the interviews? Or do you want to start the news first, and then we'll talk to Jeff?
Yeah, let's start the news first, and then we'll get into Jeff in a minute. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Stay tuned, Jeff.
no worries. I apologize.
All good, mate.
That's all right. Apple has acquired Australian-born internet entrepreneurs Ben Keegren and Kathy Edwards' mobile app search and Chomp for about $50 million, according to a person
Whoa.
familiar with the matter. Apple confirmed to Fairfax Media it had acquired Chomp, but did not go into detail. Apple buys smaller technology companies from time to time, and we generally do not discuss our purpose or plans, it said in an emailed statement. Keegren is the CEO and co-founder of Chomp, the leading app search engine. Edwards is also co-founder of the company's chief technology officer. Chomp is backed by some of the biggest venture capital firms in Silicon Valley and counts Ashton Kutcher and Dig founder Kevin Rose as advisors. TechCrunch first reported news of the acquisition. The tech blog said Chomp had raised a little over $2.5 million over 2 rounds of funding and had 20 employees, all of whom should be heading over to Apple. 6 of the world's top consumer technology firms have agreed to provide greater privacy disclosures before users download applications in order to protect the personal data of millions of consumers. The agreement binds Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Research in Motion, and Hewlett-Packard and developers on their platforms to disclose how they use private data before an app may be downloaded. Your personal privacy should not be the cost of using mobile apps, but all too often it is. Currently, 22 of the most downloaded apps do not have privacy notices. She said some downloaded apps also download a customer's contact book. What started in Buffalo as a way to help local wine retailer has turned into a national phenomenon. Cash mobs have become a national movement to support local businesses. What's a cash mob? Think of a flash mob, only doing something more useful with one's time. The idea is simple. Organisers tweet to their followers to show up at a certain day at a meeting place with cash in their pockets. Once there, cash mobbers learn what store they'll be patronising, and then they go shopping with the promise to spend at least $20. Store owners award ahead of time so they're not overwhelmed with shoppers. Chris Smith is the Buffalo resident who organised the first cash mob event last August. He told the Buffalo News that he came up with the idea as a way to support local businesses. Those of us who've had a few dollars to spend should come out and try and show to them that we appreciate that they've made an investment in the community. Since that event, word has spread via social media sites, and cash mobs have shown up at Big Fun Toy Store in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, Blue Stocking Books in San Diego, Emery's 5 and 10 in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Produce Market in Richmond, California. The cash mobs have generated as much as a few $1,000s to businesses that needed help, and it fosters shop local mentality that continues even after the event. And your TV experience is about to get a whole lot more social, with the government researchers partnering with the ABC to bring Twitter and Facebook integration to virtually any show on any channel. The technology developed by the Australian Centre for Broadband Innovation displays tweets about a show overlaid on top of the TV image and is also able to recommend shows based on previous behaviour and on what the viewer's Facebook friends are watching. It's all about allowing people to engage a little more than they have been able to in the past with what they're watching, says ABC's manager of new media services. One of the great prompters of conversation is that when you're watching on the telly, in the past we sit in the lounge room and talk to the person sitting next to us. In the future, it will become easier and easier to engage with people who are not in the same room. The first trials are due to kick off in June, and the government researchers are even developing special set-top boxes that they are considering spinning off into commercial products. And that's the news for today.
That last story, mate, is a great segue.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, Steve, how are you, mate? Got to talk to you before.
Doing good.
Any new? What's coming up on your show before we get into Jeff?
Couple topics, 2 videos. Talking about the Apple working conditions in China.
Cool.
Or I'm curious. Mostly with China and Foxconn, and like 2 videos.
All right.
Coming up.
Good stuff. Now, me and Jason got TiVos. I'm sure Jeff's got a TiVo too. Jeff from WeaKnees. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, mate?
Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, you're good, mate. I'm stoked to have you on, mate. We're a huge fan of your website and TiVo. And tell us about the WeaKnees.
Well, we've been pretty much TiVo addicts over here in Los Angeles for going on 11 years.
Wow.
The company started as a hobby, really. My business partner and I kind of started upgrading boxes to fund our sushi habit. And it kind of grew and grew until we both quit our jobs and started doing this full time. And now we have a big warehouse in Los Angeles, and service TiVos all over the country.
Nice.
And I guess most recently all over the world, now that we're sending assorted parts to Australia too.
Right. What sort of parts are you sending to Australia?
Well, we recently, it took us a while, but we managed to get our hands on an Australian TiVo box. And so we've got hard drive upgrade kits that we're sending overseas to you guys. And it turns out the remote controls that we use in the States are fully compatible with your boxes over there. And it also turns out, interestingly, that the power supplies could potentially work, although there's a little bit of a hitch there because the U.S. power supplies can only handle a certain voltage. And I think you guys are, 220 or 240 over there?
220, I think it is.
240, yeah.
240, yeah.
Yeah. And so, of course, the power supplies are perfectly interchangeable over here when we've got 110 or 120, but the U.S. power supplies are not rated above 120. So they technically would work if you had your Australian TiVo in the U.S., but we're reluctant to ship the power supplies overseas for that reason. Well, but anyway, and I think, Brad, didn't you get a Wi-Fi adapter?
I did.
Working?
That's what I was about to have a chat to you about. I actually bought one for you guys and actually works over here. So I just bought a power converter point thing, and it works fine. Yeah, works great.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So that works great. And I'm trying to get my Bluetooth work on TiVo. Is Bluetooth built into TiVo, or is that some sort of software update, or?
Well, you need a dongle, right? So the reason to get Bluetooth, what uses Bluetooth is the slide remote.
Yeah. Yep.
And if there's a dongle that you have to put on certain TiVos to get the slide remote to work. So that's in the US. So I don't know whether the software drivers in the Australian TiVo would recognize the Bluetooth adapter. That may be your hiccup.
I don't think it does, because I've tried it so many times and it doesn't work. So
it doesn't seem like.
Do you have a Bluetooth adapter?
Yeah, I do, mate. Yeah, it came with the remote, with the TiVo remote. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't seem like it'd be much of a stretch to get for TiVo to add the drivers, but it doesn't seem like a stretch for them to do a lot of things that they don't do. So.
Yeah, exactly. So have you heard much about TiVo over here at all, Jeff?
Interestingly, only because of the controversy over Robbie Minnicola's I don't even know how to pronounce her name, but her departure at Hybrid.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And then her subsequent rehire in the U.S.
Okay.
And there was, we kind of got wind of that before we were supposed to, and there was a lot of I guess ripples in the pond, let's say, when TiVo found out that we got wind of it before we were supposed to. But we're under a non-disclosure agreement with TiVo, so we kind of kept our mouths quiet. Okay. But there was some nervous Nellies over at TiVo that gave us a call and wanted to know what we knew and why.
Definitely. All right, Jason, any questions for Jeff?
Yeah, you would have probably heard about the lack of applications on the Australian TiVos over here, have you?
I mean, I know that I think as a general proposition, TiVo has not given they haven't really given their due to overseas boxes. I mean, that was true in the very old days with the very first UK TiVo. It was true. It's true now in Canada. They ship, the TiVo, certain TiVo boxes in the States are also compatible in Canada, but of course TiVo won't ship to Canada. And I think that Australia, being sort of one of the very first HD TiVos to go live outside the US, it just seems like they've not really paid much attention to it. And I don't know whether that's a function of the relationship with Hybrid, although when Hybrid launched the box, I mean, there were YouTube videos and all sorts of things where they were just gung-ho about the box. Yes. So I don't understand why there's been a lack of support over there, especially given the fact that, TiVo's losing subscribers in the U.S., and you'd think that they'd want to hold on to whatever they can in overseas.
Yeah, well, UK is completely dead. There's no TiVo there that we know now. And
actually, Virgin Media in the UK is huge now.
Big, yeah. I mean,
it's exploded. It's probably one of their most popular boxes. So maybe the reinvigoration of the UK box and the UK market will make TiVo take a second and third look or a harder look at some of the overseas markets like Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I'd hope so. We don't get TiVo. We don't get YouTube or anything on our boxes. The only thing we've got is free-to-air TV and a select group of TV and video shows that we can download through the internet and watch, but it's nothing like Netflix or that kind of thing. I believe in Canada they've got Netflix now. Do they get that through TiVo?
Well, the HD boxes in Canada are also a very difficult proposition because they all rely, I mean, to get any scrambled channel, it relies on cable cards. So, if you're in Canada and you want to get, let's call it a TiVo Premiere, you pay $100 US retail, but you get the box and all you can do is basically stream. I suppose you could get an off-air antenna hooked up and get some off-air stations, but otherwise you're just going to get content online because you can't get your cable channels unscrambled.
Yeah. Over here, the TiVo box is a really brilliant PVR, but in Australia, that's about all it really does is act as a PVR. So I think a lot of people are not so keen on getting it because they could get a Topfield or some other brand beyond Wiz that's, for a couple of $100 does exactly the same thing. But I really like my TiVo. Do you sell any kind of upgrade kits or extenders for that would work in Australian machines? Are we able to take out our 320 gig drive and put in a 1 terabyte instead, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got drive kits that we send to Australia that'll get you from, I guess, your 160 or a 320 to a terabyte or a 2 terabyte. So absolutely.
Actually, I got those upgrade kits.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. How do you come up your upgrade kits? You take like the TiVos and then you do your own, you go inside and see what'll work, and then you plan your upgrade kits to include these parts. And how do you go about making up the upgrade kits?
You mean, well, if you were to buy an upgrade kit, you'd get a drive and you get instructions for installation and you get the tools that you need to open the box. We preload the drive with the TiVo software and modify the drive partitions in a way to make sure that the entirety of the drive will be seen by the TiVo. So, by comparison, if you used Linux tools to just copy a 160 onto a terabyte drive, your terabyte drive would read 160 gigs of space. It wouldn't automatically expand to see the extra space. So we have tools that we use to make sure that the entirety of the space will be seen. Now, the reason why it took us a while to launch the upgrade product for Australian TiVos is because we had to get our hands on an Australian box, and just through eBay or whatever, we had to get a box. And once we finally did, we were able to get an image of the software and confirm that the upgrades would work.
Yeah, I was kind of going toward you did most of the testing to see how all this worked, and I like the idea that you pre-install the software because it'd make it easier for the person doing the upgrade rather than just return it because they can't get it to work. And
right. Oh, well, so you're asking how did we determine that it would actually work?
Well, yeah. How did you go about the process of selecting the parts and the instructions? I guess you all did it yourselves. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the instructions we wrote ourselves. The physical installation of a drive into an Australian TiVo is identical to the installation of two different TiVo models in the US. The architecture of the Australian TiVo is the same as what we call the TiVo HD here. So the instructions are basically the same, the physical instructions for the installation. The drives we use, we know work in TiVos, and we knew once we got the unit here, we were able to look at the drive and the partition structure of the software to confirm that the Australian software structure was the same as the US software structure.
Okay.
Cool.
In Australia last November, we had a bit of a surprise disappointment in that they launched a thing they call a TiVo Excel. Have you heard of that?
I know what a TiVo Excel is in the US. They also launched it in Australia. It was just with a larger drive.
Yeah, exactly the same box with a 1 terabyte drive instead of 320. It was pretty lackluster, and a lot of people really annoyed because it wasn't the Premiere or anything like that. It was just slightly bigger drive, which you could buy an extender for $100 and get a normal TiVo for like $399, $499 or something like that, or you could pay $700 and get a TiVo with 1 terabyte drive, which is disappointing.
I don't know the rationale behind that, although I think it pretty much confirms that there isn't a lot of technology R&D being put toward development of new boxes in Australia. I don't know for sure, but my suspicion is that, I mean, on one hand, you've got Robbie Minicola at TiVo, so you'd think she'd be a huge advocate, but on the other hand, she bailed from hybrid. So
Yeah.
I don't know how those two things dovetail.
Not sure.
Yeah, we'd heard from that hybrid had laid off a lot of staff and that Robbie had left and don't really know what's going on there anymore. A lot of people are expecting it to die at any minute. But we just keep on going.
It's still going. So, the support's good. I think the support's been improved. They email me pretty quick, now and that sort of thing. And, doing updates on the site. Good now. They're doing, putting out updates.
It'd just be nice to have some options like
I know.
Even YouTube.
Yeah,
enable the YouTube app. I mean, why is that disabled? No reason.
Right.
They just feel like, let's stuff up the Australians because we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there were some rumblings online about TiVo maybe coming up with an SDK, and maybe if they came up with a software development kit in the U.S., that might who knows, maybe they could use that and you'd see apps for the Australian TiVo. I mean, maybe there's hope in that regard. I want to say TiVo hired somebody from Mozilla maybe to lead the SDK charge.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. There's also a SDK for doing indie games for the Xbox, but that's only available in America as well. We can't.
Oh, really?
We can't use those here either. So we miss out quite a bit. It's tempting to just move over to the US and be done.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jeff, tell us about what you have. I suppose you use TiVos all the time at home and that sort of thing.
It's funny. My life at home is strange in TiVo world. I was obviously a very early adopter of TiVo, and because of the TiVo link to DirecTV, WeaKnees has been a DirecTV dealer for ages. I mean, I want to say 8 years. And so we all had DirecTV TiVo boxes when they first came out. And then, of course, because we're on the cutting edge, we have to be. We went HD naturally. So we had the HD TiVo, HD DirecTV TiVo, I should say. And then I don't know how closely you follow this, but eventually DirecTV basically changed the satellites that their HD content, from which their HD content was distributed. Okay. And the high-def DirecTV TiVo didn't see any of those satellites. Wow. So slowly but surely, the HD TiVo got no HD. So if you had an HD TV and you had DirecTV and you wanted a TiVo, you were basically SOL.
Yeah.
So being in that situation, I had to make a choice. Do I keep DirecTV and go without TiVo, or do I bail on DirecTV and my DirecTV distributorship basically and go with cable and get a TiVo? Well, long story short, there were financial reasons for a while for me to keep DirecTV. They were basically paying for our service. So I got an HD DirecTV DVR and have basically just kept it. So and now there's as you well know, I was listening to the podcast from last week, there's a DirecTV HD TiVo box, which I think you asked David about. And that box, while it's great, it's a TiVo interface and it's got the TiVo remote, it's very hobbled. I mean, it's a real shame that thing was launched without a lot of the features that the HD DVRs from DirecTV have. So I'm in this quandary where I'm a total TiVo addict on one hand, but on the other hand, my family now is used to the DirecTV box that we've had at the house, and I've got 2 terabytes, some ridiculous amount of storage that has all the junk that they've recorded over the years. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do without, stay married basically at the same time.
Exactly. So what sort of things do you sell on the website?
We're certainly a one-stop TiVo shop.
Yeah,
we've got everything from remotes, power supplies, faceplates, cables. Everything there is to have for TiVo, we've got. We've become, over the last decade, really a repository for everything from the oldest TiVo to the newest, any part you could possibly imagine. And then we also, in the States, like I said, we're DirecTV dealers, so we've got a lot of DirecTV equipment. Plus, a huge part of our business now is repairs. We repair these older model TiVos because just like in Australia, you buy the box with service and you pay a premium, and the service is tied to the box.
Yep.
the States, it's similar. You buy a TiVo box, and while service for life isn't required, it's an option. And a lot of people with these older TiVos have paid a lot of money for service. And if their box bites the dust, the only way to maintain service is to get the box fixed. So we've become pretty well versed in fixing these old TiVo boxes, and we get huge volumes of these things coming in every day. And, we do everything from obviously drive replacements and power supply replacements, but also, we're soldering and fixing motherboards to make sure that the lifetime service remains intact on boxes that break.
Okay. And what about people in Australia? Do you fix TiVos over here as well? Or?
Well, yes and no. If there's a drive problem, obviously that can be fixed with a new drive. Power supplies can be repaired if there's, a capacitor that blows or something like that. That can be replaced pretty easily. But in terms of the actual motherboard and our knowledge for fixing that, I guess you can compare us to TiVo in that regard. We just haven't spent the money to figure out how to fix Australian TiVo boxes, in part because it's so bloody expensive to get them shipped back and forth, and also just because we don't see enough broken ones to have the knowledge. And the other thing is, frankly, as these TiVo boxes get more and more advanced and the chips that are on them have more and more features packed in them, it becomes more difficult. For example, in the Premiere, if you look at a TiVo Premiere's motherboard, there are very few chips on that board, and the massive chip that basically is the brains of the TiVo has to the best of our knowledge, we don't have schematics, but holds the TiVo service number and holds the various things that make the TiVo operate and link it to your service. And because that chip is programmed with the TiVo service number, it's not one you can just replace. We would have to have a supply of those chips and be able to program it. And as much as I'd love to think that our relationship with TiVo is great, it's not that great. They're not going to give us those chips and the ability to program the chips.
What about TiVo Premiere? If we bought one over here, would it work over here?
No chance.
No chance.
You off air, I think off air is different, but also, you need a cable card, and you're not going to. The cable card's a pretty unique development in the States. It was basically the cable companies here were compelled by the federal government to offer cable cards, and TiVo really had a pretty large say in getting the cable card standard adopted and getting the FCC to mandate cable companies to provide cable cards. It's a pretty unique situation out here.
Yeah, definitely. Now, David, the guy who was on last week, now he's a huge TiVo fan as well. He just bought a TiVo Premiere just about a week ago. Now, he sent me in some questions via Voxer. Now, I'm not sure how well it's going to play, so I'm just going to play one now and just see if you can hear it or not. But here's one from David for you. Got a question here for you. Now, here you go. I was going to play it now for you. So.
I'd also like to know if they have like an upgrade disc, that you could use to, instead of buying their hard drive where you could spend $30 and then upgrade your own drive that you buy, like you do with Instant Cake.
So that's one question for him.
Very, very good question. So Instant Cake is that he refers to is a downloadable software product that you can run on a PC and basically have the TiVo software installed on your own hard drive.
Okay.
And rather than offer that competing product, we basically have a different product, which if you have your own drive, you can send it into us and we'll load the software and make sure that the software load goes well. It's a little bit more expensive than the Instant Cake software product, but we kind of deal with it in a different way rather than just offering another software product that is effectively the same. The Instant Cake's offered by DVRupgrade.com, and we just have a different service that the end game is the same, but we just have to get the drive here to do it.
All right, well, here's one more question for you, Jeff. Here's one more from David, so I'll play it for you. Here we go.
Then I had the question, is there any way to port any kind of Series 4 software to any older hardware, or is the hardware limited to the fact that it can't, run this newer software?
That's a very good question. TiVo does a lot to keep different software versions from working on older TiVo boxes, and really vice versa. And I mean, if you were to go back 12 years and read the TiVo community forums when people first started upgrading TiVo boxes, the cardinal rule was to never put the software from one unit on another. And the reason is that if you were to go look at your TiVo box, Australia or US or otherwise, and you look at the software version, you'll see that the last 3 digits of the software version match the first 3 digits of your TiVo service number.
Oh, okay. Good tip.
And that's almost always the case. There are a couple exceptions where TiVo has merged code, and there's a software version that works across a couple different TiVo models. But for the lion's share of boxes, even if your TiVo boots with the software, so for example, the TiVo Premiere software will boot in a TiVo Premiere XL and vice versa. And my guess is that the Australian XL software will boot in a non-XL box. But because you have at least in the US, because you have the mismatch of the software versions, when you go dial in, which the TiVos do to confirm that you have service, the TiVo servers are going to basically barf and say, forget it, you're done, and it won't work, and it won't send guide data down. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of a technical reason why, but also the Premiere has newer hardware and, a newer chipset that I'm guessing, that software just wouldn't work. So there are certain cases where TiVo software from one machine will actually boot on another machine, but it won't go further than that, because once you dial in, you're done. And in the US, the telltale sign of a software mismatch is if you boot the box and you're in guided setup, and you go through guided setup and the unit dials in, that'll all be fine. It'll download 2 weeks of guide data, assuming you have service. And then after 2 weeks, the next dial in, it will stop getting guide data because the software version doesn't match. It's the wrong version, and the TiVo servers won't serve the guide data anymore.
I just wish they would make it one TiVo for all. I think it's just bullshit how they make TiVo just for the US and Australia. They should just make one TiVo, I reckon. But
don't you have like different video standard? I don't know if do you use PAL in Australia?
Yeah, we use PAL. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the reasons, but.
And we had it's like 520p or something, right? It's not 720p or 1080p, right? Or 1080i?
1080, yeah, we have 1080i and
1080p.
Yeah, 1080p, yeah.
Oh, do you? But the lower, it's not 480, right? It's 520. I remember this when we were trying to get our TiVo to show up on
520, and then we can have the menu on 720p.
Okay,
yep.
Got it.
Yeah, but so yeah, any new products coming to the website anytime soon, or any new stuff coming?
Well, I mean, TiVo just had their earnings call, and we had seen some of these products at the Consumer Electronics Show, but couldn't talk about them. But now that they've spilled the beans, it looks like they're coming out with a sort of a dummy box that they're going to use. Shouldn't say dummy box, but a satellite, a small box that will basically do the encoding, the decoding, so that you can send content to an iPad or an iPhone or something like that.
Cool.
So that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
And they've obviously got a bunch of deals with cable companies, and they're going to port the TiVo software into various cable boxes. And it looks like finally on the US side, they've got a big deal with Comcast that will enable you to get video on demand, which is a huge problem for them with the Premieres generally, because the cable card standard in the US is only one way. You can't, whereas video on demand on a cable box requires two-way communication, the TiVo can't do that. And apparently there's technology with Comcast's Xfinity that will enable them to have video on demand through the TiVo. So that's exciting to a degree. I mean, TiVo's pushing some new cable card standard called True Two-Way, which I think they hope will get some traction to enable cable cards and TiVos to have two-way communication. But it sure looks like TiVo's focus is broadening their reach to cable providers, and B, looking internationally, and of course also suing everybody they can.
The TiVo operating system, is that proprietary system, or is that Linux with TiVo software running on it?
Well, you can actually go onto TiVo's website and get the sort of Linux portion of the Linux code that's in the public domain. I mean, I think that whatever GNU licenses that they use require them to provide certain kernel info and things like that. But there is a layer that's proprietary as well. So I think it's a hybrid, so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
And the name WeaKnees, is that something to do with arthritis, or where did you come up with that name?
Yeah, basically we tried to come up with a name that would convey how you feel when you first get a TiVo. So
Okay, weak at the knees.
Yes, that's how I felt when I got mine.
I think
not to mention the domain name was available.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I can't either, huh? Believe me, there's been a lot of discussion over the last 10 years about changing the name. But the problem was we launched, and then pretty quickly after, we got very lucky and quick press. I mean, from Leo Laporte and Time Magazine and the New York Times. And once you get that kind of lucky press, we felt like it was foolish to change the name.
Yeah. And what about you, Jason? How did you feel when you got your TV, mate? Were you stoked when you got yours?
Yeah, I was really stoked. It was nearly $700, I think, when I got it.
Same.
But, I got it. I actually went to a couple of places to get mine, and the second one, I said, "Oh, what about Wi-Fi adapter?" They said, "Oh, yeah, we'll just throw that in. That's all right." And I think they knocked off $100 or $200 as well. So
that's good.
I was happy, with that, and it's been going very well for me. I wish it had some extras, but I think, because in the US, people pay a subscription on going to TiVo, whereas over here we don't pay anything once we've got the box. So they're not really going to make any more money out of us once we've got the device. So.
I think it comes down to money. I spoke to someone from TiVo a while back on Facebook. I think he said it came down to money. They don't have much money, I don't think, but.
Yeah, if they had monetized it with even like $20 a month subscription or something, and they could throw in some extra stuff, I think make it optional.
Yeah. Definitely.
Then if I paid you $20 a month, you can activate on my system YouTube, you can activate some extra videos, you can add on whatever else they've got on the internet that people would be interested in, Facebook or Twitter or something. I don't know what people would be like or what they actually have in the US. I've not looked into the US boxes, but even just to get YouTube enabled and a few other things just to make the box a bit more of a media center rather than a dumb terminal.
Well, they did have a few things on the TV box over in Australia a while back. They had like the podcast over there, they had radio on there, they had Blockbuster on there, and now they're just gone to shit and they've just put Casper on there.
Casper, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and Casper's not that good. I don't use it that much anymore, but I use it a few times over the weekend. But
yeah, I just wonder if there's the demand for some kind of subscription service. Maybe they should do a survey
on
I think
the website
or
there is definitely.
Facebook.
There is definitely demand over here for sure. Definitely.
Maybe one of us should put on their Facebook page. What would anybody pay for? $20 a month for extra options on their TiVo, and see if people would subscribe.
Definitely. So, Jeff, what do you want to say to TiVo Australia?
I'm thrilled to have you guys out there. I mean, it's terrific.
Yeah.
It's we feel, for a while we sort of felt insular here, and there was always at least in me personally, there was always a concern that TiVo was gonna not make it.
Yeah.
And the fact that they launched overseas and they're picking up steam in various countries, it's great news. Not forgetting the fact that they're alive and because of massive litigation settlements. I'll take it however I can.
Yeah, definitely.
But clearly you guys are pretty darn passionate over there, and I agree. I'd love to see, some R&D devoted to these other boxes. It would be it would be great.
Definitely.
And it seems like the easy way out is just release the software developer kit and let you guys go at it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
We would do a tech webcast app.
Yeah. We're on TiVo now, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
we're on TiVo. That's good.
With the WeaKnees products, if I wanted to do something like upgrade my 320 gig drive to a 1 terabyte internally, can I just buy that from WeaKnees and they send it to me with instructions on how to open it up and change it over? Do I lose all my data? How's that work?
You absolutely can. If you only have one TiVo, well, actually, I don't even know if that works in Australia. In the U.S., we have a season pass manager where you can copy season passes from one box to another. But yes, if we send you a self-install kit, you're basically pulling one drive out and putting another one in. So anything that lives on the TiVo box is gone. In the U.S., we can obviously we can get a TiVo from a customer and copy everything from one drive to another, that becomes fairly cost prohibitive unless you just send us your drive. But if you sent us a 320 gig drive, we could copy everything over to a terabyte or 2 terabyte drive and then ship it back. But
There's no way to slave my current drive through the USB port or anything to access it, or even reformat it and use that.
Well, no, I mean, you'd have to get an external drive, and in the U.S. only certain types of external drives will pair up with the internal automatically. Yep. We use software to pair the internal drive with a drive that's not TiVo approved. So if it doesn't work automatically, we can pair the drives using some software here.
Well, I mean, if I get a new terabyte from you that's already got the TiVo software on there, take my 320 out and plug it in via a cable into the USB port, will it see that 320, which is already TiVo spec, externally?
No, it won't, because the sort of the OS would be on both drives, and the TiVo's not smart enough to look at a drive with the standard TiVo operating system and just find the recordings. It just doesn't work.
It is. So what do you charge for that sort of work, Jeff, to do that sort of stuff?
Well, that's a very, very good question. The floods in Thailand have just destroyed the hard drive market.
Yeah. And
we have just been slaughtered. Our hard drive costs, I want to say, over the course of the last 2 months have tripled. And, we were fortunate to have some inventory, but getting hard drives is a real mess now. And we're waiting for it all to sort of to die down and for supplies to get back. I mean, I think the problem is that like the Dells of the world, HPs, and all the contract manufacturers, they suck up all the drives, and it leaves the little guys like us paying ridiculous prices. So at least in the States, if you're an individual and you want to go buy one drive, you can go to a chain store like Fry's out here and Best Buy and find a drive on sale and get one at a decent price. But for us, ironically, to buy a lot of drives is a bloody fortune, especially since we try to concentrate on AV drives. So right now, a terabyte drive on our website is $299 US.
Wow.
It's very expensive.
Well, might be easier for us just to get an extended drive from Office Works.
That's what I use. I bought one of them a while back. That come in handy. That's great.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you can go find one drive at a sale price and it works, more power to you. I mean, the only thing I caution folks about is that TiVo boxes and really all DVRs use DVR-specific drives. They're drives made for DVRs. They run cooler. They run slower, actually, than desktop drives, and they're sort of optimized for streaming audio and video. And if you go out and get, sort of a random external drive, there may be performance issues or whatnot with that drive, which is going to be running 24/7. So, it's better to choose an AV drive, all else being equal.
Definitely. All right, Jason, what else has been happening, mate? Any podcast I was on yesterday with Chris?
Yeah, tell us about that.
That was very interesting. He does a great show. You should listen to it.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Steve?
Podgnome.
Yep, check it out, Steve. Do you get much into podcasting, Jeff?
Do I what?
Do you get much into podcasting?
A little bit. I listen to yours.
That's good, mate. Good on you. Thanks. Appreciate
That's
it.
all that matters, right?
It does. It does. Now, what sort of the TiVo box? What's the popular one you're selling at the moment?
Well, with the economy the way it is, we're moving a lot of the lower end Premier boxes. But
okay.
Again, also I know David chastised TiVo for launching the TiVo Elite without an off-air tuner.
Yep.
And we definitely agree that it's an unfortunate choice. But nonetheless, the Elite is an incredibly popular box here. I mean, the ability to record 4 shows at once for all the TiVo junkies out here is a pretty big sell. And it works pretty well, and it's fast.
Cool.
So we sell a lot of those. And, of course, now that the DirecTV TiVo box has launched,
yes.
We're moving many of those as well. I mean, we had a pre-order list for those for many months, and when those landed, we were working basically around the clock to get them upgraded and out the door.
Wow. Well, so do you reckon you would ever not? So you wouldn't make it like Australian TiVo for us, maybe for like the Elite Premiere or something or whatever, Premiere Excel? You wouldn't put like Australian software in it?
Would I?
Yeah. Would sell one, or would you make one?
The Elite, I mean, Elite, you've got zero chance because it only has a digital tuner.
Okay.
It has no off-air tuner. So if you got one of those, you'd be sunk. You'd have to. I mean, I suppose you could connect it to the internet, and to the extent there aren't IP-based restrictions, you could pull content from the internet, but you wouldn't be able to get a cable card.
What about the Premiere XL? If you run that over the air antenna, would that work?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't know whether the off-air tuner in Australia is the same as here. I mean, if it is, I don't see why not. The only question is how you get guide data in there.
That's a good question too, mate. I think good question.
And of course, PAL versus NTSC, and
power supply issues.
And power supply issues, exactly.
I think at some stage it would be neat if we could get at least a 4-tuner box, because I know one of the problems with the TiVo only having the 2 tuners is if I'm taping a show on ABC and the next show after it, it uses 2 tuners for that one channel, and you can't tape something on the other channel because the TiVo is not smart enough to know that the show, because of the overtime extender that's got built in there to make sure you get the extra 10 minutes, it throws another tuner at the same channel to record the 10 minutes that's also already being recorded on the same tuner. They don't have any kind of smarts in there to say, well, I'm on ABC, I've just finished recording a show from 7 to 7:30, there's an extra 10 minutes there, and the next show on the same channel is starting at 7:30 and going till 8. I'll use the second tuner to do that, and then you can't watch anything on another channel, you can't tape anything off another channel because it hasn't realized that both those shows are one after the other on the same channel.
But if you're recording if you've got season passes or whatever for back-to-back shows, why put the 10-minute buffer in there? Can you turn that off?
Well, we can individually, but then if the second show stops playing, then you're going to miss that 10 minutes. Unfortunately, the big problem here is Australian TV stations are well known for going an extra 10, 20, even 30 minutes over the time that they're scheduled in the guide, and a lot of them you will end up missing the end of your show if you don't have the extender on by default for every single show. They'll start, if there's cricket that's going extra 15 minutes, then all the rest of the shows for the rest of that day are going to be an extra 15 minutes late, and you'll miss them. And it would just be nice if the TiVo would be able to say, hey, I'm on ABC, the next show's on ABC, I'll just keep going with the same tuner.
Yeah, that seems like not a very sophisticated algorithm to add.
Yeah. But if you had 4 tuners, who cares, right?
Exactly right.
I guess, although once you have 4, you're just going to want 8.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely.
That's right. You'd always need more power.
So, Jeff, do you sell any WeaKnees T-shirts, mate?
No.
Oh, you don't? Well, you should, mate. You should get some
I
promotion.
wish, you're right, we should. It's a very good question.
Yeah,
my
should.
father asks that same question.
Okay.
I should set some up on my Cafe Press account.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where can they find you on the internet, Jeff? Twitter and stuff, and Facebook, or?
Yeah, we've got a Twitter account. It's WeaKnees. We've got a Facebook account. It's WeaKnees.com, I think. We've got a blog. It's wkblog.com.
Sweet.
We've got forums, wkforums.com, and of course our website is www.weaknees.com.
Good stuff. And Australian people should buy more stuff from you.
Yeah, we'd love to be keeping
Do
the
a
post.
cash mob.
Cash mobs.
Do a cash mob and buy it all from me.
There you go.
Yep. And what about you, Steve? Where can they find you on the internet?
Of course, on justin.tv/LindaSCoolDude if you're watching it live right now, or on what do you call it? Twitter.
Twitter,
Cheddarbox_live.
Oh my God, Glenn's going to hate us after Thursday. So yeah, this is going to be replayed on Aussie Tech Heads on Thursday night. So yeah, Jason, where can they find you on the internet?
Bluebilby.com is the website, and you can find me on Twitter, Warlock, WAULOK, and Bluebilby Apps.
Good stuff.
And Brad, where do you find you?
And you can find me on Brad Eisen at Tech Webcast, and on Facebook Tech Webcast. Jeff, last question. Can you give us any tips for TiVo? Tips for TiVo. You need tips for it.
Well, I mean, the most famous of all tips is the 30-second skip, which
we can't use.
Is that working, you guys?
Nah, that sucks.
They disabled it.
That sucks.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Man, that's enough reason to move to the States right there.
Yeah, networks have got them in the grip over here.
Yeah.
Although we do have the what is it? The play select shortcuts where you can put a little clock on there. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Well, anyway, if you go to www.weaknees.com/30, you'll learn how to do the 30-second skip if you're not in Australia.
Yeah.
Or you can learn how to do it if you are in Australia and just wallow in your sorrow over there, I guess.
Well.
All right, mate. Thanks, Jeff, for coming on. You're a legend, buddy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks, mate. Thanks,
Good night,
Jason.
or
Thank
goodbye,
you.
as the case may be.
Yep. Thank you. So, thanks.
Adios.
Thanks.
Hi, Glenn from Aussie Tech Heads. Join Will, Eric and myself as we bring you the latest, most up-to-date important tech news that affects you from Australia and the world. A weekly podcast available each Friday through iTunes. Watch the live stream recording of the show at live.thesecrethub.com each Thursday night 7:30pm or GMT plus 10. Call in live via Skype or chat in our lounge. However you get us, just make sure you do. Listen or visit our website for more information, www.aussietechheads.com.au. Aussie Tech Heads, Australia's longest running tech news podcast.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out Tech Webcast on blip.tv and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes to make sure you always have the latest episode at your fingertips. Tech Webcast, Tech Talk for Geeks.